Hey everyone, this is Douglas GB and Road Emotion, otherwise known as John and Douglas. This is episode 2. We are going to cover the loading configuration, saving configuration files with the FPGA cat box. In a previous episode, we focused on how to properly hook up the cat box to your PCB and to your computer. And now we're going to go on to load config. So like last time, one of us is representing you and will ask questions along the way. This happens to be Douglas this time. And I will go through the loading and saving and clearing the configuration files on the FPGA cat box. So let's jump right in. So first off, loading config. Why would you want to load the config? Well, there is a bunch of different PCBs out there. We've been focused mostly on the Atari and Williams PCB so far, and those are already part of the package that Fred gives when he distributes the FPGA catbox bits. And if we press load config, we can see all of them in there. There's asteroids, the Galaxian, the Gravatar, and there's even some Williams ones that have been uploaded to the FPGA catbox share file that Fred puts on a Google Drive. So both Douglas and I have a space dual in front of us. So we're going to load the catbox space dual and press OK. And if you notice, a bunch of fields fill themselves out under the board config area. You have addresses and registers, and it of course shows what kind of board you're on. If you had a math box, it would show there the number of pokies that are installed, all those nice things that you will need as you go through some of the more advanced features of the cat box that we'll get to in later episodes. If you click on the ROM tab, of course, you get your ROMs. And there are two fields that I want just to spend a minute on, and they happen to be path to all ROM folders. A lot of you have access to main ROMs, or you have access to ROMs that you have read and saved off. This path to all ROM folders, which right now is pointed to the desktop, is the place that you want to make sure is filled out. Now, the specific ROM folder called folder for ROM files, in this case Space Dual, is the folder where you'll actually find the ROM files that ends up being listed in the right side of the screen there under ROMs in this version.
So, John, are you saying that like this is your overall path, and then this is specific to a particular game?
Exactly. So when you save these off, this one's Space Dual. If you have Gravatar, you'll want to create a special folder called Gravatar under the, in this case, the desktop folder, and then put the Gravatar files in there, just like this has Space Dual.
Okay. So it's
And
kind of like to get it's you if you took this path and combine it with this path, that would give you these paths are added together to get to where this file might be.
that's right. Yep. Yeah. On your Windows desktop, of course, it looks like, C:\users /user /desktop /space dual. That is correct.
Got it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there's a good example. Okay, let's move on to the RAM tab. Same thing under the RAM tab. It is, part of the config. The differences on the RAM tab is that if you notice, it'll show you the locations that we're going to get into in future episodes when we actually test RAM. It'll show you the start address and the end address of every RAM. And one thing to note is a lot of times, especially in later boards, RAM is in pairs. And it's going to be fun to see us down the road test this RAM and find out how we can see that individual RAM might fail, not just the pair. But for the setup, you'll see that the location high to low individually shows you the location on the board. In this case, L7. So if you looked on a space dual board, you would go to row L and then to number 7.
Hmm. What does it mean, high to low? Is that talking about the bits of the RAM? Yeah, L. Sorry, you said we'd get into that later. I'll wait till later.
Okay, we'll cover that in a later episode. The other two tabs that we won't go really deep into, but I at least want to mention them, is the I/O tab, which again has different signals filled out with their addresses. You have SLAM and self-test. All these things, based upon the parts of the board that is broken, will become way useful in future episodes. And then the trace signals tab, we will also use in future episodes, represents really important trace signals that when we get into the signature analysis pieces of the FPGA tester, we'll use greatly. But these are all the things that get loaded into your tester when you press load config. Now sometimes, I want to say often, sometimes there's mistakes, and we can crowdsource ourselves and help each other out. If there's a mistake, you can correct it, and then of course press the save config and save the file to a new file name, or you can override the existing file to correct the mistake. And that helps us all out if we can, share the corrections. And it does happen. I know that in Space Duel, there's I think the mislabel of one of the locations of the RAM or the ROM. And clear config does exactly what it says, which is basically clear the configuration. And then you can load and start from scratch.
Hmm. Oh, it doesn't. Okay, it didn't mess with my file, but it just cleared what was in the tester was set up for.
Right, and gives you the opportunity to load a new config or reload the exact same one that you had there before.
Or make your own, yeah. Okay. So load space dual, boom, it all comes back. Uh, okay, cool.
Last thing I want to mention, then we'll finish up this episode, is it shows you at the bottom there the cat box space dual new.ini. If you are super technically savvy, like a lot of us are, feel free to actually go into the ini file. You'll see all the labels inside there, and it might be easier to modify the ini itself and then load the config. I've done this many times to create signature analysis files for the signature analysis tab, and it is faster if you go inside a notepad and actually modify it in there. Feel free to do so, but of course, make sure the syntax is correct before you save it off. Okay, that concludes our episode 2. We will see you guys back with the next set of features in episode 3.
All right, take care. We'll see you then.